Imagine instantly knowing exactly what was working in your business, what was broken, and what you need to focus on. You see, most entrepreneurs don't actually know what's working in their business. They're running on nothing but gut feel and guesswork. And that's exactly why they stay stuck, working 10+ hours a day, drowning in decisions and chaos. But luckily there's a 5-minute habit that makes the chaos disappear. However, it's not sexy, it's not complicated, but it's a habit that's helped me and my clients at selfmastery.co scale faster, work less, and finally run their business with precision and control. So in this video, I'm going to show you what that habit is and how to implement it in less than 5 minutes a day, and how using it will give you an unfair advantage in business. Let's dive in. Now, here's the thing that separates successful entrepreneurs from those who stay stuck spinning their wheels forever. The entrepreneurs who scale effortlessly and work fewer hours than their competitors have one thing in common. They never make decisions based on feelings, they make decisions based on facts. And the only way to get facts in business is through tracking your damn data. Think about it this way. Imagine you're a pilot flying a plane, and instead of having the instruments to tell you your altitude, speed, fuel levels and direction, you had to rely entirely on how you felt the plane was performing. That would be a damn chaotic flight, wouldn't it? Yet, that's exactly how most business owners operate their companies every single day. And look, I learned this lesson the hard way 5 years ago when I was running my first business and working like 60-hour weeks, but couldn't figure out why my revenue kept fluctuating wildly month to month. But the moment I started tracking the right metrics, everything changed, because suddenly I could see exactly where the bottlenecks were, what brought in the leads, and which part of my sales process were converting prospects into paying customers versus which parts were causing them to disappear forever. So here's what you need to understand. Data tracking is not just about collecting numbers for the sake of it. It's about creating a real-time feedback loop that shows you exactly what's working and what's broken, and where to focus your energy to get the biggest return on your time and effort, because a key part of systems is a feedback loop, okay? And in business, the feedback loop of your systems is 99% of the time it's data. And so if you don't track the data, you're missing that key aspect of the system which helps it operate effectively. So when you track the right metrics consistently, you eliminate guesswork, you stop wasting time in activities that feel productive but don't move the damn needle, and you start making decisions with confidence that comes from knowing exactly what the numbers are telling you about your business performance. So now that you understand why data tracking is non-negotiable, let's talk about where to actually do this tracking, because the tool you choose will determine whether this becomes a sustainable habit that actually improves your business or another abandoned project that just collects digital dust. You see, most entrepreneurs make the mistake of either trying to track everything in their head, which is obviously never going to work, or they track and scribble notes on random pieces of paper only to lose them, or they invest in super expensive software that's so complicated they never actually use it consistently. And look, you've probably tried all these approaches before, I know I have, and you never stick to them. So of course you think there's something wrong with you and you can't use these softwares or you can't deal with data. Well, I'll tell you right now, it's not you. It's the damn softwares. They're so incredibly complicated, and so you fail because these approaches create friction instead of remove friction. Like, I once worked with a client who spent 3 months and like $15,000, like a crazy number, $15,000 or something like that, building a custom dashboard of all the bells and whistles, multiple integrations, fancy charts and automated reports, which, it sounds super impressive, right? But the problem was it took him, 30 minutes a day just to input his data because the system was so incredibly complex. And within 6 weeks, he stopped using it altogether because it felt like a damn part-time job just to maintain it. Now, if you compare that to another client who I got to start tracking everything in a simple Google Sheets document, which takes him less than 5 minutes to update his numbers every single day, he can access it from anywhere and he can easily customize it as his business evolves. And a few months later, he secures a $1 million deal because he actually used the system consistently. Well, that's night and day. And so that's where I recommend you track your data, Google Sheets. Now, I get asked literally all the time by clients in DMs and comments what softwares I use for this sort of stuff around systems and data and all. The answer is always 99% of the time Google Sheets. Look, I've tried and I've tested a ton of softwares and a ton of other things, but they're just overly complex. And look, I have a finance and economics degree. I love data, I love numbers, I fucking love them, right? But most of the softwares are bloody shit. The beauty of Google Sheets is that it's simplicity and flexibility. You don't need to be a technical genius to set it up. You don't need to pay monthly subscription fees. It automatically saves your data in the cloud so you never lose anything, and you can access it from your phone, your tablet, your computer, whatever you need to check your numbers or input new data. So what you want to do is create a new Google Sheets document, and you're going to create a different sheet for each system or department or function, whatever you want to call it, in your business, plus one master scorecard that gives you the high-level overview of your entire company. In each sheet, you want to create a tab for each month with the metrics you're tracking along the top, the date down the side, and then 2 rows at the bottom to calculate the average and totals of each metric. You then want an averages tab, which tracks the average of each metric for each month so you can see the longer term trends of that data. Each sheet essentially becomes a focused dashboard for that specific area of your business, whether it's marketing, sales, operations, or finances. And this separation keeps you from getting overwhelmed while ensuring you can dive deep into any area you need to if you want to troubleshoot it or optimize performance. But look, the biggest mistake I see entrepreneurs make when they first start tracking data is they either track everything under the sun and get paralyzed by information overload, or they track vanity metrics and make them feel good but don't actually correlate with business growth. And both approaches really, honestly, are just a waste of your time and create confusion instead of clarity, which is probably why tracking data has never worked for you in the past, or at least one factor. So the key to effective data tracking is understanding that not all metrics are created equal. You want to focus on the metrics that directly impact your business systems, and especially around the areas like your ability to acquire customers, deliver value, generate profit, which means the best way to know what to track is to first map out your systems, which, don't worry if you don't know how to do that, if you don't know how to map out your systems, I have a whole video where I break down how to build systems that let your business run without you, and I show you exactly how to map out your business systems in a super simple way. So I'll just leave a link to that video at the end of this one and you can check it out. But once you've mapped out your systems, you just want to go through each step and ask yourself, can this be tracked of a number? And if it can, you quite simply track it. That number becomes a metric in your Google Sheet that gets tracked. So if you think of your business like a manufacturing assembly line, every successful product goes through a series of predictable steps from raw materials to finished goods. And at each step, there are specific measurements that tell you whether that stage is performing optimally or creating bottlenecks that slow down the entire operation. So when you start tracking each step of your, let's say, marketing system, you get to see exactly what's actually generating you leads, whether that's growing your email list, what type of content gets the most leads, what ads work the best. You get to see all these different metrics that show you exactly how well your marketing system is working and what's not working, so you know how to fix it. So for example, when I started tracking the data in my marketing system and I could see what content and what platforms generated me the most leads, I saw that Twitter was generating me 0 leads despite having 100,000 followers on Twitter. Now you could obviously say that's my content's problem, which it could be, or you could say that it's the platform's problem. Either way, if I was taking radical responsibility, I would say it's my problem. However, every other platform generates me leads for my business. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to stop posting on Twitter, but I'm going to put barely any effort into it because it's clearly not getting me the returns from the effort I'm putting in. And I can see what platforms actually do generate me leads, so I can go all in on them. YouTube is one of them. So you can look and say, oh, content doesn't get me any leads, but ads do. So I can double down on ads, or you can obviously choose to improve how you create content to make content start working. It's really up to you, but you get to see where your bottlenecks actually are and what actually works so that you can double down on what works and fix what doesn't. So you want to take each major system in your business and you want to walk through it step by step, asking yourself at each step, can this be measured with a number that would tell me whether this step is performing well or poorly? If the answer is yes, that's a metric worth tracking. If the answer is no, or if measuring it would require more effort than the insight is worth, skip it and move to the next step. But now that you know what to track, let's talk about how to organize these metrics in a way that gives you instant clarity about your business performance without drowning you in, spreadsheet complexity, because the goal is to spend 5 minutes a day in this, not 5 hours. You see, the problem most entrepreneurs run into when they start tracking data is they create these massive, complicated spreadsheets that are impossible to read at a glance. And instead of getting clarity, they end up with more confusion than when they started, which defeats the entire purpose of the measurement in the first place. Now, the thing about this is that depending on your business, your scorecards, as in how you track your data, the spreadsheet, may end up actually being super complicated, okay? Because quite simply, the more complex your business, so, the more offers you sell, the more funnels you have, the more whatever, the more complex your business, the more things you have to track. Therefore, the more complex your scorecards. But Still, at that, you want to be as simple as possible, which might mean you need to simplify your business massively, which is something I recommend most people do. As Alex Hormozy says, you should sell one product to one avatar on one channel until $1 million, okay? Most people try to, they reach 6 figures a year and then they try to sell multiple different things, which is actually the wrong thing you do. You find something that works, so just go all in on it and put more effort into it till you get to 7 figures. Then potentially you can diversify, but even at that, there's an argument not to. That's beside the point of this video. If you want me to make a video though on how you should simplify your business and simplifying offers for scalable growth, etc., let me know in the comments below and I'll show you how to massively simplify your business operations. But here's a framework that I give to my clients to simplify data tracking. You're going to create 2 types of scorecards, okay? System-specific scorecards that track the detailed metrics for each system of your business, and one master business scorecard that gives you the high-level health check of your entire operation. So think of it like the dashboard in your car. You have detailed diagnostic information available if you need it, but when you're actually driving, you only need to see the essential metrics like speed, fuel level, engine temperature, all at a glance. It's the exact same with your scorecard. But with each metric on your scorecard, one thing you need to make sure of is that you also track a goal number for each metric. So the number you want for that metric to achieve, because this is how you see if that metric is doing well or not. If you're not sure what the goal for a metric should be, just ask ChatGPT, give it some context around your business, the metric, the system, etc. It's pretty good at this. And like I mentioned earlier, you also need to track averages over time, not just daily numbers. So every sheet, every scorecard should have an averages tab, because guess what? Day-to-day data has fluctuations, it's up and down, which can really throw you off and make you think something isn't working when in reality it is, and so it can lead you to make emotional decisions based on temporary variations rather than actual trends. Daily numbers will simply drive you crazy because they're naturally volatile. One day you might get 10 new customers, the next day you might get 2, but that does not mean your marketing suddenly stopped working. And so we want to calculate weekly or monthly averages and focus on the trend between those averages. For example, is your average weekly number of leads improving, staying flat, or declining over the past 3 months? That tells you in a much better way the health of your lead generation system than looking at the daily numbers. But here's where most entrepreneurs fail with data tracking. They set up some beautiful system and then abandon it within a few weeks because they make the process too complicated or try to do it at the wrong time of day when their energy and focus are already depleted. The secret to making this habit stick is to design it for consistency rather than perfection, which means you need a simple, repeatable process that takes exactly, 5 minutes and happens at the same time every single day, no matter what else is going on in your business or in your personal life. Here's the exact process that's worked for my clients. So every single day during the last 5 minutes of your workday, you're going to update your scorecards with that day's numbers. If you have team members, this becomes even more powerful because you want to assign each person responsibility for updating the scorecard for their area of expertise. If you have a head of marketing guy, get him to fill in the marketing scorecard at the end of each day. And then once a week, you update the master business scorecard by pulling data from individual system scorecards. Now, I do have another video solely dedicated to the business scorecard in which I actually give away for free the template that I give to my clients. I'll leave a link to that video in the description below and you can check it out. But this delegation approach of getting whoever is responsible for that system to fill in the data for that system serves really 2 purposes. It removes the data entry burden from your plate so you can focus on analysis and decision making, and it makes your team members more accountable because they're forced to confront the numbers in their area of responsibility every single day. The key though is to make this process so simple and automatic that it happens regardless of whether you had a good day or a terrible day, whether you're motivated or exhausted, whether you're in the office or traveling. Consistency will beat perfection every single time. So of course, collecting data, it's only half the equation though. The real magic happens when you turn that data into actionable insights that drive measurable improvements in your business performance. And this is where most entrepreneurs drop the ball. They'll diligently track their numbers for weeks or even months, but they never actually use that information to make strategic decisions about what to change, what to double down on, or where to allocate their resources for maximum impact. It's like having a GPS system in your car that tells you exactly where you are, where you need to go, but then ignoring the directions and just hoping you'll somehow arrive at your destination through random trial and error. It's never going to fucking happen. For example, I once worked with a software company founder who had been tracking detailed metrics for about 6 months, but couldn't understand why his growth had plateaued. So when we sat down to review his data together, the numbers told a crystal clear story that he'd been completely ignoring. His website conversion rates were 40%, I think, below his goal. his customer acquisition costs, CAC, had increased by like 60% over the past quarter. But his lifetime value of clients was 25% above the target and growing consistently, okay? So the data was screaming that his existing customers loved the product. They were staying longer and spending more than they expected, but his marketing and sales process were broken and getting worse over time. And it was actually a really easy fix for him to make, but he just never actually went and made the changes. So within 30 days of focusing his energy on fixing the conversion rate, optimizing his acquisition channels instead of trying to improve every metric simultaneously, his monthly revenue increased. I can't remember how much, but it grew. And his workload actually decreased because he stopped wasting time on activities that simply weren't moving the needle. And that's what can happen when you first track the data and then actually use it, okay? You can truly change your business. So here's your weekly review process. Every Friday afternoon or Saturday evening or Sunday morning, I personally do it on a Sunday morning, but whenever works best for your schedule, spend 5 minutes reviewing the business scorecard. Ask yourself 2 questions for each metric. The first question is this number above or below the goal I set for it? Any metric that is below the goal is sending you a signal that this area of your business needs attention and improvement. The second question is, of all the metrics that are below the goal, which one represents the biggest bottleneck to my business growth? This is usually either the metric that's furthest below the target or the metric that's earliest in the system, as that number earliest in the system limits the throughput to the rest of the system. And then if you need more information, like if a marketing metric is the bottleneck according to your business scorecard, you can go to the marketing scorecard and spend 5 minutes reviewing it. And again, asking the same 2 simple questions about every metric. Is this number above or below the goal I set for it? The second question is, of all the metrics that are below the goal, which one represents the biggest bottleneck to my business growth? And look, the reason you focus on the biggest bottleneck first is simple. According to the theory of constraints, a system can only have one constraint at a time. That is the biggest bottleneck. So improving the constraint, which is typically the metric below the goal that's earliest in the system or significantly underperforming, will have a multiplier effect on all the metrics that come after it in your business process. What I see all the time is so many people, so many entrepreneurs try to fix like 10 different metrics at once, try to fix 10 different things at once. Doesn't work like that. You have one constraint at a time. You put all your effort and energy into fixing that one constraint. That is the theory of constraints, which is under systematic laws. So this is how systems work, and it's how you should focus and prioritize. Otherwise, you're just diluting your focus, spreading your efforts thin, and you're going to slow down the rate at which you actually solve the bottlenecks. Focus on one bottleneck, one constraint at a time. Now, of course, for metrics that are above their goal, you have 2 options. You can either double down and invest more resources to amplify what's already working, because that is really the way you scale. You find something that's working and you just drive more volume through it and fix whatever breaks as you scale it. Or you can take calculated risks to, potentially change some aspect and maybe unlock even better performance. It's really up to you. The key is to resist the temptation to work on everything at once. Pick one metric to focus on. Depending on your team size, you might get away with focusing on more metrics, but less is almost always better, as you don't want to be trying to fix a bottleneck and also messing around with another metric that influences the bottleneck, because you might not be able to fully tell if you're actually fixing the bottleneck because you're changing multiple variables at once. So you want to choose the metric you want to focus on, make specific improvements, then measure the results and fix it to the point where it's improving and trending upward toward the goal before moving on to the next optimization opportunity. And if you want to know how to map out your system so you can know what metrics to track, click this video on screen and I'll show you exactly how to do that.